Inside the mind of human war planners, the weight of silence. The silence of a human prison was not empty. It was heavy, calibrated, and cold. Strategic analyst Krevthar sat on the edge of his cot, his four-fingered hands resting on his knees. For a being whose species had lived in the clouds of gas giant 4 for millennia, the artificial gravity of the human station felt like a physical hand pressing him into the floor. But it wasn't the gravity that weighed him down today. It was the amber glow of the terminal. It updated every morning at 6 o'clock. File updated. Prisoner K, 471. Biological vulnerabilities and termination log. Krevthar leaned forward. His eyes, large and multifaceted, reflected the scrolling text. Method 1. Rapid depressurization. Estimated time to unconsciousness, 4 seconds. Total fatality, 12 seconds. Method 4. Targeted neurotoxin 7B. Symptoms: immediate paralysis of the secondary respiratory sac. Death follows within 3 minutes of exposure. He scrolled down. They had added 2 more overnight. He was up to 19 now. Method 18 involved a specific frequency of sound that would resonate with his hollow bone structure until it vibrated into dust. Method 19 was simpler, a high-energy laser pulse to the base of his cranial ridge. It was the most terrifying literature Krevthar had ever read, not because of the cruelty, but because of the math. There was no anger in the text. There were no insults. It was just a species solving a problem. He was the problem. They had 19 solutions. And yet, every morning at 8 o'clock, a slot in the door opened, and a tray of warm, fragrant food was pushed through. "Is the biryani to your liking today, Krevthar?" He looked up. Lieutenant Sarah Park was standing behind the reinforced glass. She wasn't wearing armor today, just the dark blue duty uniform of the Terran Navy. She looked tired. Humans always looked tired to Krevthar, as if they were carrying a secret that was too heavy for their short lifespans. "Why do you do this, Sarah?" Krevthar's voice was a series of clicks and whistles, translated by the device on his throat into a soft, melodic hum. "Do what? Feed you? It's breakfast, Krev. Don't overthink it." "No." Krevthar pointed at the terminal. "The 19 methods. You spend your nights calculating the resonance of my bones. You map my nervous system like a territory you intend to conquer. And then you bring me tea." Park leaned against the glass, her eyes narrowing slightly. "We're humans, Krev. We like to be prepared. The tea is because I like you. The 19 methods are because I don't know if I can trust you tomorrow." "That is the definition of madness," Krevthar hissed. "No," Park replied quietly. "That is the definition of survival. Eat your rice. The Admiral is coming to see you this afternoon. She's giving you the key." The shattered cradle. The key was not a physical object. It was a login credential. When Admiral Morrison entered the cell, Krevthar felt the air change. If Park was the T, Morrison was the laser pulse. She was a woman of 60, her hair a sharp silver bob, her skin etched with the scars of a dozen worlds. She didn't sit. She stood in the center of the room like a pillar of iron. "You've been reading your own death warrant, analyst," Morrison said. It wasn't a question. 19 versions of it, Krevthar replied. "Good. It means you're paying attention." She tapped the terminal. "I've unlocked the primary strategic archives for you. Level 7 clearance. You are the first non-human to see them. Do you know why? Because you want to gloat? To show me how many ways you can kill my people." Morrison's laugh was short and humorless. "I don't have time for pride, Krevthar. I'm giving you access because my government is currently debating whether or not to glass your home planet. And your council is debating whether or not to strike us first. We are standing on a needle's point, and I need someone on the other side who understands the math." She turned the terminal toward him. "Look at the file labeled Terra Prime. That is our Y. Read it. Every word. I'll be back in 6 hours. If you haven't lost your mind by then, we'll talk about the alphabet." Krevthar watched her leave, then turned to the screen. He found the file. It began with images. A planet of vibrant blues and deep greens. Earth. It looked like a jewel. Then he saw the Arothkai. To the Galactic Council, the Arothkai were the gold standard of civilization. They were poets. They were philosophers. Their ships were made of glass and light. When humanity first met them, they had celebrated. A mirror of our best selves, the old news feed said. Krevdar scrolled through the diplomatic logs. Humans had shared everything. Art, music, the secrets of fusion. They had opened their borders. They had trusted. Then came the gift. The Arathkai had sent a fleet of atmospheric stabilizers to Earth. They said it would heal the ozone, would make the world a garden. But the Arathkai saw reality differently. To them, the galaxy was a ladder of divinity. They were at the top. Humans, with their messy emotions and biological drives, were near the bottom. The stabilizers released a viral agent. It wasn't meant to kill. It was meant to perfect. It rewired the human brain, stripping away aggression, ambition, and the disorder of free will. It turned the human race into a species of docile, happy cattle. But the human biology fought back. Instead of docility, the virus caused a massive, systemic neurological collapse. Krevdar watched the footage. Cities full of people simply stopping. Mothers dropping their children because they forgot how to hold them. Pilots forgetting how to fly. 3 billion humans died in 4 months. Not from war, but from a favor. The survivors, the 10% who were naturally immune, didn't write poems. They didn't ask for an apology. They built the first Option Z fleet, the alphabet of the abyss. Krevdar felt a coldness in his chest that had nothing to do with the station's life support. He had always wondered why human ships were so ugly. They were slabs of black metal, bristling with sensors and kinetic batteries. Now he knew. They weren't ships, they were scars. When Morrison returned, Krevdar was staring at the statistics of the Arathkai extinction. 11 months. That's how long it took humanity to erase a 10,000-year-old civilization. They hadn't just defeated the Arathkai, they had removed them from the equation of existence. They meant well, Krevdar whispered, his voice cracking. In their own twisted way, they thought they were helping you. That's the most dangerous kind of enemy, Morrison said, pulling up a chair and finally sitting. The enemy who thinks they're the hero. The Arathkai taught us that hope is a luxury we can no longer afford. We realized that if we wanted to survive, we had to stop assuming everyone was like us. She swiped the screen, bringing up a massive branching tree of letters. From A to Z. This is the Gaussian protocol, she explained. Our strategic Bible. For every species we encounter, we create this tree. We don't wait for them to prove they're friends or enemies. We prepare for both simultaneously. Krevdar looked at Option A. Full integration. Mutual defense. Trade. Cultural synthesis. This is where we want to be. Morrison said, pointing to the green-lit, we spend 90% of our budget trying to stay in Option A. We build schools. We trade grain. We share medicine. We're the best friends you will ever have. Then she pointed to the bottom. Option Z. Complete biological and structural termination. Total erasure of the target species from the galactic record. And we spend the other 10% of our budget making sure that if we have to move to Z, we can do it before the other side even knows the war has started. It's a ladder of horror, Krevdar said. No, Morrison corrected. It's a ladder of choice. We have a plan for Option M, economic collapse. We have a plan for Option F, diplomatic isolation. If your council shoots down one of our traders, we don't jump to Z. We move from A to B. Or C. We give you 1,000 chances to stop. We give you every opportunity to be our friend. She leaned in, her eyes boring into his. But we never, ever walk into a room without knowing where the exit is and how to burn the building down behind us. The Arathkai took our optimism. We replaced it with the protocol. The 72-hour vote. Why show me this? Krevdar asked, his click whistle voice trembling. Why show me the monster under the bed? Because, Morrison said, standing up, in 72 hours, the Galactic Council votes on a containment resolution. They want to blockade our core worlds. They think we're getting too strong. They think we're a threat to the peace of the galaxy. She tapped the terminal one last time. If that vote passes, Krevdar, humanity moves to Option P, targeted military strikes on Council infrastructure. And if the Council retaliates, we move to Option S, and then T. I've seen the projections. If we hit Option T, the Council fleet will be gone in 6 days. If we hit Z, the galaxy gets very quiet. She walked to the door. I'm releasing you. There's a shuttle waiting. Go back to your cloud cities. Tell your Council what you saw. Tell them that humanity is the best friend they will ever have. But we are the worst enemy they can possibly imagine. They won't believe me, Krevdar said. They'll see the 19 methods and say you're bloodthirsty. Then tell them this. Morrison turned, her hand on the doorframe. Tell them we've had the plans to kill them for 50 years. Tell them we've had every opportunity to use them. And tell them that every single morning, for 50 years, we have woken up and chosen not to. That is our strength, Krevdar. Not the fire, the choice, the return. The journey back to the Council hub was a blur of hyperlanes and silence. Krevdar sat in the small human shuttle, looking at the data chip in his hand. When he stood before the High Command, the room was a sea of shimmering robes and exotic scents. The ambassadors of 40 species looked down at him with pity. Analyst Krevdar, the High Prelate announced, you have returned from the barbarian territory. Does their cruelty know no bounds? Krevdar looked at the prelate. He thought of Sarah Park and her tea. He thought of the 19 methods. He thought of the 3 billion ghosts of Terra Prime. They are not barbarians, Krevdar said, his voice echoing in the great hall. And they are not cruel. They are something much more dangerous. They are prepared. He projected the Gaussian protocol onto the center of the hall. The ambassadors gasped as the alphabet of apocalypse unfolded before them. He showed them the math. He showed them the clinical, cold efficiency of their own potential extinction. They have weaponized their own trauma, Krevdar told them. They have turned paranoia into a diplomatic tool. They know exactly how many kilotons it takes to crack our crusts. They know exactly which frequencies will shatter our bones. A murmur of outrage swept the room. They must be stopped. This is proof of their malice. No, Krevdar shouted, silencing the room. This is proof of their love for peace. Look at the record. 40 species they have met. 40 times they have reached for Option A. They have had the power to rule us for decades, and they have spent that time trading spices and helping us build hospitals. He leaned forward, looking the prelate in the eye. They don't trust us. Why should they? We're the ones debating a strike. We're the ones talking about blockades. They are simply waiting for us to decide who we want to be. If we choose to be their friends, they will be the most loyal allies we have ever known. But if we choose to be their enemies... Krevdar paused, thinking of the 19th method. They have already finished the war. We're just waiting for them to check the box. The choice. The vote for the blockade failed. It didn't fail because of love or even respect. It failed because of a new, profound kind of fear. A fear of a species that could plan a murder and then invite the victim to lunch. Krevdar returned to his home in the clouds, but he never truly left that cell. He spent his evenings looking at the stars, wondering which letter of the alphabet they were on today. He received a final message a week later. It was a simple text file, unencrypted. Prisoner K, 471, status update. He opened it, his heart racing. Method 20, molecular decohesion via targeted graviton flux. Method 21, neural feedback loop. He scrolled to the bottom. There, in a small, neat font, were the words he had been waiting for. Current status, Option A preferred. Note, the tea was a blend called Earl Grey. I've sent a crate to your coordinates. Park. Krevdar closed his eyes and breathed. The humans were still choosing peace. For now, the galaxy was safe. Not because the humans were kind, but because they were the only ones who knew exactly what would happen if they stopped being kind. They had seen the abyss. They had mapped it. And every morning, at 6 o'clock hours, they chose not to jump. Inside the mind of human war planners, strategic analyst Krevdar had 17 ways to die in his file. He knew because his human captors left it open on his cell terminal. Prisoner K, 471, elimination protocols, airlock decompression, 2.3 seconds neural disruption. Instant atmospheric toxin, 4 to 7 minutes. 14 more methods followed, each clinical, each efficient, filed under plans we hope never to use. That was 3 months ago. He was still alive, and that terrified him. Krevthar had studied warfare for 6 centuries across 40 species. Nothing prepared him for human strategic command. Instead of execution, they gave him 3 meals daily and full database access. Lieutenant Park shrugged at his confusion. Admiral wants you to understand. So he read. Every human scenario started with genocide. Every first contact, every negotiation, every cultural exchange, planned extermination down to atmospheric composition for orbital bombardment. But each genocide was filed under Option Z. Above it, 25 alternatives, ranked backwards from extinction to peace. Option Y, massive retaliation Option X, nuclear exchange Option M, economic sanctions Option F, diplomatic isolation Option A, peaceful coexistence. Humans plan for peace last, but hope for a first. When Admiral Morrison visited, Krevthar understood. You think we're monsters. I think you're terrified, he replied. Morrison showed him a hologram. Earth, charred and dead. 3 billion died because we assumed good faith. We learned. Her voice hardened. Now we plan for the worst first, then work backwards toward hope. The database proved it. Thousands of species, thousands of Option A's successfully implemented, 17 Option Z's executed, all unavoidable threats. We want peace desperately, Morrison said. That's why it's Option A, our goal. But we won't be unprepared again. Every human commander has 26 plans ready. We're always 3 steps from peace and 2 from genocide. We choose peace every day because we've already planned the alternative. Krevthar filed his report. They have 17 ways to kill me. They choose, every day, not to use them. They've weaponized paranoia, turned worst-case thinking into art. And somehow, that's why they keep choosing peace. They've seen the abyss, planned for it, and decided, every day, not to jump. Next morning, his execution file updated. 18 methods. At the bottom, Morrison's handwriting. Option A, send him home safe.